I've got Thomas Godfrey. He's a reporter at The Sun, and he's been doing a lot of work on this. He actually told me, I don't know if I can tell everyone, but he's doing a bit of an investigation too on this sort of thing. Thomas, what do you know about this? What's going on?
I mean, there's a huge number of accounts out there offering this sort of service to would-be asylum seekers looking to cross the channel. And what we've had this afternoon published in the Times is a really interesting report from Reset Tech, which is a non-profit that looks into these sort of big technology platforms, these social media platforms, and they found 80 different accounts offering deals, as you said, package holidays almost, for people who want to come to Britain, to simply get into Britain on a small boat. And it's not just the sheer number of accounts that are online, it's their reach as well. 233,000 combined followers around the world. Many of those will be potential clients or clients who have actually made it into Britain. 1.5 million or so likes on their videos. And over the course of their month-long investigation, only 9 of those accounts were taken down. 71 of them remained online. So when TikTok claims to be doing something, to be cracking down on the problem, until they were told, 71 of those accounts were still online. I mean, really, these big tech platforms, I've said it time and time again, in this studio, in the Sun newspaper, these tech platforms have to step up sooner rather than later, or this problem will only keep going on.
You make such a good point. It is on the tech platforms at this point, but it's also on the government who's had this soft touch policy. Will, I can see your eyes almost popping out of your head right now.
Yeah. Look,
with rage.
These people are laughing at the British government, and they are laughing at you, the British people. So many of these TikToks that you see, they're in the luxury hotel room watching the TV. They're doing those stupid kind of hand signals that teenagers do. It's like literally a brazen attempt to say, ha ha, we are taking advantage of you. Now, should the media, the tech platforms be doing more? Of course they should be. But this would not be happening if the British government made a very simple statement that says, if you get on a rubber dinghy, you will never, ever settle in this country. If they made that statement, you stop the boats arriving in the space of a week. Now, Shabana Mahmood can, talk loudly in Parliament. She can do the whole, kind of act tough routine as much as she wants. But until she says that, you will not solve this problem. Not to mention the whole legal framework, which makes it impossible to deport anyone really in this country, which I know we're getting to later.
You're right. If there was a detain and deport, then this business wouldn't exist. I mean, you are outnumbered here, Thomas, by Australians. We did have...
and it was a really comfortable dinghy that I got. Calais as well. So easy.
But we had a massive problem with illegal migration over there. And then we had to enact Operation Sovereign Borders, which ended the crossings in a week because, obviously, the people smugglers were told that if you send anyone across the channel, they're not stepping a foot onto Australia. And unfortunately, now that we've had 110 asylum applications, we've had over 35,000 come across the channel just this year. I think we're at breaking point, and I think that this TikTok thing, we don't realise. I think when we think about illegal immigrants, we just think, they're these very, very vulnerable people who don't have access to an iPhone, don't have access to anything. No, these are craven individuals with a lot of chutzpah. I'll give it to them. They've travelled between many different countries to seek out a better life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this illegal route is not the way to do that. What would you say to the government said that they're cracking down on it? It doesn't seem like they are right now, Thomas.
And a very important point is that earlier this year, the government said, pledged, promised, whatever word you want to use, this sort of advert on social media would be made illegal. People would be prosecuted, you'd be fined, you'd be sent to prison. It hasn't happened, and this is still happening. The only evidence you have to find to work out that a lot of the people coming into this country are technologically savvy is the fact that so many of them post videos of their own boat crossings on social media. Just last week, a man by the name of Alexandra 420, who we revealed had come into Britain on a small boat, filmed his own RNLI rescue and put it on TikTok. He was deported last week. And actually his internet footprint was so bad, he'd made a video instructing his followers how to kill their wives if they were unfaithful to them. He's now out of the country, but another one, a man called DG Osama, who was given asylum in this country and then went on holiday to Afghanistan for 8 weeks, posted that all over social media. I mean, these people aren't just tech savvy, some of them are influencers. I mean, they're actually content creators.
Yes, that guy had 70,000 followers, I remember, and it's only thanks to people like Thomas journalists who expose this stuff day in and day out that these people are actually getting caught, in my opinion. Genuinely, I think it's only due to these reports that you're doing that there's light going on to this, because they're just getting away with it.
I agree with that. I would also note, when you look at these videos and photos that go up on social media, the amount of times you see these young men, and they're all young men, carrying weapons, whether they be guns or knives.
Yeah.
There are several examples of videos that have gone up where they're almost, again, you know, how cool am I? I'm holding a gun as I'm in a rubber dinghy on my way to England. It's terrifying. It is terrifying, and it goes to the fundamental point that if you don't have an orderly immigration system, you do not know who is coming into the country, you do not know what they are bringing in, and you do not know, well, sadly, we now do know what the consequences of that are for far too many women and children in this country.
Thomas, yeah, I mean, you can't battle against that point. I think it's true, but I think that TikTok is a very, very good wing of marketing for these people smugglers. It took me the other night. I was just kind of, this sounds a bit silly, but like I did get a bit bored, and I went on TikTok, where I spend actually a lot of my time, too much of my time.
This is our generational
yeah,
difference,
exactly.
Samara.
Yeah. I thought, oh, how long will it take me to find a people smuggler? It took me 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I DM'd him.
Yeah.
I posed as, you know, a Vietnamese migrant, and he sent me across the deals. That's how easy it is.
And it goes from about £1,500 just to go from Calais to Dover, or £10,000 to come all the way from Dakar, or a Vietnamese city, or Eritrea, if you can get out of Eritrea and come to the UK, or even Kabul. I mean, you can go halfway around the world and book all of the travel packages, all illegally, from your phone. I don't think the government and the Home Office have quite comprehended how far down the rabbit hole we are in terms of this sort of flagrant, blatant deal-making, which is completely against the law in basically every country, let alone just here.
And what I'm also
Such a
aware
good
of
point.
is, particularly when you look at this problem in the United States on the Mexican border before Trump solved that, if you're unable to pay that particular cartel the amount of money to be able to cross the border, you are effectively a slave for them, and they use you for, you know, whatever purposes they see fit. For example, drug smuggling. I would have no doubt that that would actually be a part of this story as well.
These are not clean operations. You know, this is people smuggling. This is dirty business. And I almost scoff when I hear, you know, Keir Starmer's empty platitudes of smash the gangs, because the gangs are international operations that are operating in a very, very sort of craven way, that in many different countries with many different criminal circuits around them. So it's a very, when he says, oh, I'm going to smash the gangs, that doesn't mean popping a few boats, you know, at Calais. This is a massive thing that he's trying to dismantle, that he won't be able to. And, you know, when I think about DMing a people smuggler on TikTok, that's also how easy it is to maybe get some of these people that are on the front lines. It's not that hard in that way to get those more sort of those people who are putting the people on the boats.
There are camps in Calais. I've been to Calais. There are camps in Calais. And there's one side where it's the sort of asylum seeker side of people who are just there to fill up their water bottle, get some food, go into town on the bus. And there's another side, which I was told was the selling side. And that is where every once in a while you will see representatives, very low-level people in the absolute grand scheme of things, who go into the camps to try and find people and either sell them at a deal to come across the channel, or upsell them, or get them across quicker. And I was shown messages that people have been sent in the dead of night: come to this location and we'll launch the boat, we'll run into the sea. People there have tried 6, 7, 8, 9 times to come to Britain illegally. Either the weather wasn't good enough, or they've been caught, on one of the rare occasions they are caught, by the French police. But it's not just an internet thing. These gangs are so big, they are so grand, they are so massive, and they are so organised, as the name suggests, that they can have boots on the ground in plain sight of the French police, who we're paying £480 million a year, by the way, for very little results. And still get away with it.
It's like the drug cartels. The drug cartels are
they're hand in hand, really.
Many of them are. But in terms of the fact, they are very successfully and efficiently run operations. And as long as there is going to be an incentive to enter this country, and by the way, Mahmoud's recent reforms still provide incentives to enter this country, you're going to have opportunistic criminals who form parts of these gangs, who will set up operations to be able to make that a possibility. And if you smash one gang, to use Starmer's ridiculous language, another one will pop up the next day.
Well, look, I'm not trying to get tinfoil hat here, but there are a lot of people making a lot of money off people smuggling right now, and it does lead me to say, why isn't the government doing anything about it? I mean, none of their plans have worked thus far. I haven't heard of one single gang that they've smashed. I mean, I know that they've deported quite a few people under their various schemes, but it doesn't seem like they're doing enough with their promises. I am going to keep both of you because I'm enjoying this conversation way too much. We're going to talk about something a little bit more positive, actually, a bit of a win after these messages. Welcome back. Welcome back. Sorry, we're talking about potentially going and doing some secretive reporting. I don't want any of you guys to be privy to that until we do release it, but do stay tuned. Maybe we'll get it past the bosses, maybe one day. I want to talk about this asylum win. Now, Thomas, talk me through this. What's been going on? You guys have had an actual win.
I know. As rare as they are few and far between on this sort of open justice, transparency crusade that many of the newspapers, us included, have been on for a very long time. This is the very complex matter of immigration courts. That have been picked up in terms of reporting in the last year or so because of just the sheer number of mad decisions that get made about people, about migration, about precedents as well on the interpretation of laws laid down by basically the last 5 governments, all the way back into the sort of founding of the tribunals quite a long time ago. And what you have is a very complicated system with appeal after appeal after appeal. And what we've managed to win from the judiciary as such is that of the 2 tiers of asylum tribunals, currently the upper tier is published. And now that means it has to be appealed twice, effectively.
Right, OK.
What we've won is that the first tier decisions will now be published as well.
Brilliant.
And that means that we will have a wealth more decisions to look through, to sift through. And these decisions do mean something because there are so many cases of either convicted criminals, people who are known to the intelligence services, going through these courts, and if it ends at the first tier, if that process ends at the first tier, there's no published record.
And not to mention the activist barristers that we continue to be privy to. I mean, you know, Lord Justice Bean with the Epping case, that was kind of a separate thing, but saying, you know, the rights of the asylum seekers are above the rights of the British people. We need to be exposing these judges for their weird, strange, confected judgments that, you know, then we have to, then I was doing some research and finding, you know, oh, Lord Justice Bean is tied to this pro-Palestinian charity or this and that. So you're right. I think it's a massive victory for the Sun because we'll be able to, you know, bring truth to justice.
Well, this is it. Sunlight is so often the best disinfectant for these types of things, especially in the court system and especially in the immigration tribunals, because, I mean, just to give you a sort of rubbish version of Top of the Pops of some of the people that have been allowed to stay by these courts.
Go off. I'm sure our audience will want to hear that.
Abdullah Zedi, those of you who remember last year, the Clapham Alkaline attacker, attacked a woman and her child in South London. He was allowed to stay by a first-tier immigration tribunal, meaning that ruling wasn't published. He only knew 4 of Jesus' 12 disciples, and the judge still believed he genuinely converted to Christianity.
Oh, he had one of those. One of those baptisms in the bathtub.
Yes, in a bathtub.
But he ended up having a Muslim ceremony for his
funeral.
Keep in mind, the new Archbishop of Canterbury is now going to make it even easier to baptise incoming illegal migrants. But sorry,
I could talk about that all night.
And number 2, a paedophile from Pakistan who a court ruled couldn't be deported because he was an alcoholic, and drinking as a Muslim in Pakistan is illegal. He said the prison conditions were so bad in his home country it would be tantamount to torture. He won. Albanian criminal Clevis Disher was allowed to remain in the UK. Part of his case for staying was that his 10-year-old son would not eat foreign chicken nuggets.
Remember that one, guys? I think they do.
February feels a long time ago.
Yes.
A serial sex offender migrant who was allowed to stay by a first-tier tribunal judge, again meaning no record of that decision was ever published. After that decision was made, he went on to be jailed for having sex with a 15-year-old girl. Also on his criminal record, he'd stolen a car, carried a knife and beaten someone up. Lovely person. Shame we couldn't deport him. A violent Polish crook man called Konrad Makoki, he was allowed to stay by a first-tier tribunal judge, again meaning there was no record of this until it was appealed to the higher court. He was a, quote, father figure to his nephew, had to be a role model to the boy, despite being a violent criminal. Again, it may feel like a very small, complicated administrative point, but in the grand scheme of things, all of these cases, so many more of them now will be thrown open to public discourse. Taxpayers are funding these judges' salaries. Many of them are on £150,000 a year plus to make these decisions. Correct. Their judgments and the reasons behind their judgments have to be open to public scrutiny, and I'm very glad that that's what we've been able to achieve.
Three words would make this country immeasurably better, and they are not our problem. I couldn't care less if you are a violent sex offender, and because you're a violent sex offender, you're more likely to be treated poorly in Afghanistan. You should be treated poorly. You should be, like, whatever happens to you, happens to you. I couldn't care less. But unfortunately, we don't have that mentality at the moment. But this is the other key thing. Because we have ideologically captured judges who will make these sorts of silly rulings because of vague laws like the European Convention on Human Rights, which is enabled by the Human Rights Act, you are going to continue to have these problems. The fundamental issue is the legal framework. And until you repeal those laws, you do not solve this problem. That's why Labor will not solve this problem.
Well, I think what the Sun's done here is a small kind of step in the right direction. When I say small step, it's actually a massive win. But they have constantly been exposing these soft-touch judges that have been allowing these foreigners to stay. Under our dime, by the way, 03444991,000 is the number. If you are absolutely enraged by that shopping list of sex crimes and sort of violent criminals that we've been embracing with open arms in this country, it's actually, it enrages me to no end. I've got a lot of different messages and calls about this. A lot of people are very happy with all the work the Sun's been doing, which I'm happy to see. But, you shouldn't have even had to bang the drum like this. You really shouldn't have. So do you think that we're going to see really bad things come out now that we'll be able to be sort of privy to everything that's going on in the court systems, or will this be holding them to account? Well,
I mean, look, the ones that you get at the ones that make it to appeal stage, the ones that make it to publication, many of those are shocking enough already. There are convicted murderers in there. I mean, you can go back and search yourselves on the archives if you really want to. And so, transplanting, I mean, there's sort of 80,000 cases a year go through those courts. There's 83 courtrooms in the country, 12 different places. I mean, just by sheer numbers alone, it's very likely we're going to see some judgments made that by people who really do need to be held to account and currently aren't.
And Thomas, this is a wonderful piece of reporting, but I am calling it a qualified win, because if some of those stupid stories that you just read out don't lead to change, then quite frankly, nothing will short of a change of government. If chicken nuggets remains an excuse to stay in this country, unfortunately, it looks like we're going to need something more than more examples to get to change.
Well, maybe when Lord Justice Bean or Justice Hollyrod or any of those woke justices that I can think of off the top of my head make their next decision, maybe they'll think, oh, Thomas might write a really damning article that will be on the front page of The Sun about me. Maybe I shouldn't let this triple convicted sex offender, that's a hypothetical case, by the way, past and just let him back into the country. I think we do really need to hold these people accountable, because for a very long time they have been allowed to push their liberal woke ideology onto their judgments, and it's only led to more sort of sexual assaults, more horrible things happening out on the streets, just like we've seen with the acid killer. I remember that, and just not even wanting to leave the house that day because I just felt so unsafe. So there are real life consequences to these judges that sit in their warm, cozy boxes and decide things.